Today's learning target is I can change units in the customary system.
Today we're going to be using customary units of measurement, and these are the measurements that we use in the United States to measure the length, how long something is, the weight, how much it weighs, or the capacity, how much liquid it holds. And so all of these are different customary units, and this chart here is in your book as well, so you're going to want to refer to that today when you when you do your assignment.
Today you're going to be asked to convert or to change one unit into another. So in this case we're asked to change feet into inches. Now to do this we're going to use a ratio just like we've been using in this chapter. So I start by writing out what I have. So I have 20 feet and I want to turn that into inches, and I'll just use the variable x because I don't know how many inches it is. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the unit rate for feet to inches or inches to feet. In this case, if I didn't know it, I could look down here and I could see 1 foot equals 12 inches. Okay, or maybe you already knew that. So then right over here I put 1 foot, and I always label them, equals 12 inches. And the reason I label them is I have to have the same unit on the top, so feet are on the top and inches are on the bottom. Now I could have put the inches on the top and the feet on the bottom, but as long as the same unit is on the top as is on the bottom, I'm okay. And now I want to make these two fractions, or these two ratios, equal. And to do that, I'm going to start with the unit ratio, the one that shows the unit rate, or the one that's complete. Okay, so I look and I say, how am I going to make this ratio equal to this ratio? And I know that if I times or divide the top and the bottom by the same number, that's going to keep that ratio equal. So I'm going to look right here at 1 foot. I want to get that to equal 20 feet. So I'm going to times that by 20. And as long as I do it to the top and to the bottom, it's going to be an equal ratio. Now 20 times 1 equals 20. So over here I'm going to take on my calculator, remember you can use a calculator this unit, 20 times 12. And when I do that on my calculator I get 240. So the last thing I do is I make sure I include my label, so I know that's going to be inches. I could put those two little lines for inches or write out the word inches. So in this case 20 feet equals 240 inches. In this one here I'm going to convert 36 yards to how many feet? So again I start with 36 yards, I'll abbreviate that YDS, equals, I'm going to use X because I don't know the number of feet, and I'll put FT for feet. Now you might know that there's 3 feet in 1 yard, or you might have to look down in that chart there to find here's 1 yard equals 3 feet. Okay, so there's 3 feet in a yard. Now I include that in my ratio here, so we want to get that to equal. Now be careful. If you put feet on the top here and yards on the bottom, you don't have the same units on the top and on the bottom. So I want to put that 1 yard right here. So 1 yard, and I label it, and then 3 feet, and I can abbreviate, but I want to put the feet label down there. Now my feet are at the bottom, my yards are at the top. Now I'm going to multiply or divide my unit fraction, or the one that's complete, to get it to equal this one. So when I look at 1, I'd have to times that by 36 in order to get that to be equal. And if I do that to the top, I have to do it to the bottom. So 1 times 36 is 36. And now in my calculator, 36 times 3 is 108. So my answer would be 108, and I would make sure I put the label feet. Or I could write it also like this, 108, and 1 slash, or one little line like that, means feet. Alright, let's take a look at this one here. It says convert or change 15 quarts into gallons. So I wrote down 15 quarts equals X gallons, and then I looked at my chart here, and I found that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Made sure I lined up the quarts and lined up the gallons. Now in this one here, I look and I see that I can't easily times 4 by something to get 15. So I'm going to solve this like I did the last lesson, and I'm going to take that butterfly method
to create an equation that I can solve. So I'll start by taking the 15 times the 1, and I know that that equals 15. I can do that in my head. And that's going to equal 4 times some number. Okay, so that x is what I'm using to represent that. So over here I put 4 times x. And now I'm going to solve for that. So I can see I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4, which cancels that out. And I have 15 divided by 4 right here that I'll solve, and I'll do that on my calculator. And when I solve that on my calculator, I see that it equals 3 75/100. So I'm going to put x equals 3.75 or 75/100. And now I have to remember my label. So x is, I see I was looking for gallons, so that's going to be 3.75 gallons.
So the last one we're going to look at is right here. We're going to convert 5 1/2 feet into inches. So the first thing I did was write out my ratio right here. You notice I did the unit rate first, and then I did the 5 1/2 feet over x inches second. Doesn't matter, it's going to be solved the same way. Now the first thing I want to do in this one is I want to convert my fraction to a decimal so I can use my calculator if needed. Now in my head I know that 1/2 is 0.5, so I could just write it that way, or if I needed to, I could use a calculator, do 1 divided by 2, and that would tell me what the fraction is for 1/2. So now instead of 5 1/2 feet, I've got 5 5/10 feet. That's the same. And now I can look to see how to solve this. If I wanted to use the butterfly method, I could do that. For me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying I know if I times 1 times 5.5, that's going to get me the top. And so if I do the same thing to the bottom, I will get the equivalent ratio. So I'm going to take 12 times 5.5 on my calculator. And when I do that, I get 66. So my answer is going to be 66 inches.